No.
All right. What's up, everybody? This is Karak with ACG, and I'm here with Silver, Go Burns, Reg, and Moonraven, and we're doing the international podcast. Moonraven, where are you, by the way, in the world?
Netherlands.
See, we've got people pretty much
Yeah.
everywhere. Cool. I would like to have had somebody from Florida on here while the hurricane's going in the background. Be like, shh, let's talk about while my house is flooding. Let's talk about PUBG. But I do want to say, stay safe, everybody, because man, some crazy shit's been happening. It's like Oregon's on fire. I'm not lying. It looks like Armageddon outside my house right now. And I posted that picture in the Discord. I don't know if you guys saw it, but the guys were fucking playing golf, and behind them is a raging forest fire that's like from horizon to sky. Like they're like, fuck it. they're like action movie stars walking away from an explosion. They're like, what can you do? It's a crazy world. So stay safe, everybody who's out there. Let's see. The first thing I want to do is tell patrons thanks. All the new patrons. It's been a blast. We've got we sent out all the shirts. At least everybody who answered me, who wanted them, we sent out those the physical merchandise, that kind of stuff to the patrons. If you feel like you've been missed, you probably haven't. Check your spam, because that's pretty much automatic on Patron's side. But feel free to contact me if you do feel like you've missed out. If you're interested in merchandise, there's a Redbubble link that's on Patreon, and I think it's actually in the descriptions of these videos as well. So that'll be there. And then let's see. So I'm going to start these off a little bit different from now on. One of the complaints, the only real complaint we ever get, other than being all too handsome, that's the major complaint, is people are like, seriously,
obviously,
best looking. It's just international model podcast is what people have asked us to change the name to. But a lot of people are like, we don't have one distinct thing we talk about. We've tried that. We've tried, multiple things. And I don't necessarily think one distinct thing makes sense. But what I will do is I'm going to start each one of these with a small excerpt of my thoughts on whatever's going on in the week. And then these guys will respond to it if they want. And then we'll move on to our typical stuff. And that'll really be the solidified, topic, unless a patron who's at that level has a topic that they want us to talk about the entire podcast. But we do get it sometimes. People are like, you're a little unfocused, which is true. I think that's why we enjoy it so much. I mean, honestly, it doesn't feel like
relaxed,
it doesn't feel like we hammer it. But so here's what I want to say. And this is about agreement amongst gamers. I have to say I'm pretty shocked whenever I'm, searching the net, whenever I'm talking about games on forums, whether it be Reddit or our forums or Discord. I'm always shocked at this weird discordant way in which people talk about things, where they really, really, really hate whatever somebody else is doing, but they don't realize that that is the exact way to keep somebody else doing what they're doing. If you belittle somebody, I mean, there's a reason why it's in every rom-com where somebody says, that guy's not good for you, so the chick goes for him, or vice versa. People have an ego, and that triggers them. And we get this huge amount of lack of agreement, where somebody will be all, you like Destiny, for example, and it's microtransactions. The person will be like, no, I just feel that microtransactions are a gray area, and some places it's okay, like consumables. And then somebody else will say, for every single cent you give, you are, kneeling down, sucking the, of the developer, blah, blah, blah. And what that does is, and you see it, you can watch it. The next response is even more aggressive. From the person who was calm. They're like, nah, I think it's pretty cool. And then somebody says, well, you're kneeling down. They're like, listen, bitch. And then it's on. And you have this horrible discussion. And we talked about it. I talked about it in the podcast, or in my own video. I don't know if these guys got to see it, but in my video about taking a step back when you look at games. You can be invested and you can be interested, but a lot of times we need to start taking a step back and going, okay,
for sure. Yeah.
My own thoughts may not actually be either right, or I'm portraying them wrong. But if you guys want to make a change, the best way to do that is certainly to call me a cocksucker. I mean, come on. Like you're not going to enact change at all if you do that. It requires a lot of knowledge, and it requires a headspace that I think a lot of gamers, unfortunately, just don't really have. It's also sad that we have fan fiction sites for novels, and we have people who talk about their love of movies, even though there's some nerd rage there too. But in games, the nerd rage is much higher than those other things. Like, it's almost all rage and no communal agreement and enjoyment about games. And I think that's pretty sad. So take a step back, realize that your ego's not connected to your opinion at all. And it's okay if it's, not what everybody else thinks, but certainly don't tell people off just because they don't agree with you. I mean, it's some sad shit that I'm seeing, man. It depresses me. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think, I don't know that it's necessarily specific to games. It's like a common human psychology thing, like you see with crowd mentalities, where they sort of whip each other into a frenzy gradually.
Right. Yeah, it's true. And
that's how riots start and so on.
It is, and it's how online riots start, isn't it, Silver? Like, we'll be in Discord, and if you guys say something that pisses me off, and I'll be like, blah, 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 and then somebody else will be all, blah, 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 and pretty soon it goes from a normal conversation. That's a good point. That is how riots start.
Also, I will say that there is actually like the same kind of like fan outrage for both literature and film. Like you go to like Game of Thrones, some of the internet forums for like George R.R. Martin's books can get pretty pretty active in terms of the rage department.
I think they can. Also, what my point simply was, Silver, is that we have less of the constructive stuff right now in games. So they sort of offset it a little bit. At least that's the way I feel.
That might be true. Yeah. That's a good point.
With Game of Thrones, though, I mean, let's be honest, fans are right. No, I'm just joking. I don't want to start that. I don't even watch Game of Thrones. I don't even want to start that fucking argument because I know right now there's actual knives being sharpened. People are like, shing, shing. Come to my wall, Karak. Go or Reg or Moonraven, you got anything to add to that before we move on? No?
Sure.
Oh, go for it.
I really think that the anonymity on the internet also makes it a lot worse. Not only that, but also you don't really get what someone's actually meaning, if he's joking or if it's serious, and it just builds up a lot quicker than it would in real life. And it's a shame because it doesn't really have to be that way, but I don't know, people.
You know what would be awesome? Is if the only way to leave a comment was if your full address was posted and a picture of your fucking high school yearbook of you being like, with your fucking big flock of seagulls hair. Yeah.
That actually reminds me of one of those older comics, which was YouTube added a button that reads your comment before it posts, and he's like, "Oh my god, am I that much of an idiot?" And he just weeps in a corner.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think anonymity does. I mean, I'm sure it does change some things, but I can certainly say that even amongst friends, if somebody sends me a text, there's no guarantee I'm going to understand the context of that text. And I've had some arguments with friends. I always understand that, but I actually have one friend who consistently says, "Can I just fucking call you because I don't get your stuff and you don't get my stuff, but we're fine friends." When we're fine, but on text, it sounds, if you were to read our text, you'd be like, these dudes are mortal enemies. And then we're not. We just don't get the context of each other's comments. And so, I would agree. Anything from Go or Reg before I move on? No? Yes? Okay.
No, I agree. I don't have anything else to say because I entirely agree with you. So.
Entirely agree. All right. Well, it's nice because we're not going to agree as we move forward.
That's right.
This next section is, I just labeled it as specific peeps. And what that is each one of us brought some stuff to the table. I'll do mine last. Let's go with Silver first. So Arma 3's latest expansion is actually really fucking cool. I got a PR about it this morning, and I happened to randomly read about it yesterday. But can you describe to some people, like, what's different about this expansion? Because it's fucking pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's called Laws of War, and it's trying to focus on the non-combat side of war. So it's going to focus on stuff like mine disposal, laws of war, like warning civilians who are in conflict zones that conflict is coming to their area, evacuating them, and so on. And half of the proceeds for the sale of the DLC are going to go to the International Red Cross.
Yeah, and when I was looking at this last night, a lot of people may be all, but it's Arma. Why is there no shooting? Yeah, well, there's tractor simulators, so fuck off. I mean, we don't need every single thing to have a gun pointed at another person. And I love guns, and I love pointing them at other people in video games. So Don't get me wrong, but I think this is perfect, man. I mean, Arma.
Yeah.
Arma's always had the ability to do crazy shit, and they haven't. I personally believe that they haven't necessarily stretched their wings in quite a while, and this is sort of cool, man. Like, I could say bomb disposal, and fuck,
Yeah.
dude. Like, I'd be in. I think they're called Cougars, which are the United States ones with the V hull for bomb disposal on roads. I'd drive one of those around in Arma and fucking dispose of mines all day long. If so, I'm getting that for sure. And that's the first DLC I've got from them in a long time. So yeah, it looks awesome. Are you gonna get it, Silver?
I haven't really played Arma much as of late, but I will probably be getting it at some point, I think.
You don't have a Cray supercomputer to run Arma, you mean? I'm just joking.
No, I can run it fine. I'm just there have been other games that have taken up my time.
Gotcha. And you also wanted to talk a little bit about the Lion Song.
Yeah, now the Lion Song is a small independent game. It's a small episodic adventure game. It's in 4 episodes. The first episode is actually free, and the 3 episodes after that are like $4 each, and each are like an hour long. So it's pretty cheap, and I'd say it's pretty good value for money. It's the art style is pixel art, and it's in this sepia tone because it's a historical game. It's set in like early 20th century Austria, immediately prior to World War I. And it follows 4 different people. Each episode focuses on a different person, and their lives sort of intertwine with each other. And I find it's a really nice feel-good game. There's nothing like particularly deep about it. But
feeling good, but knowing war's coming, right? Because this must be a happening place anyway. Prior to this, I mean, what are you supposed to be doing?
The war isn't really all that present. It's sort of there.
Gotcha.
Kind of in the background, but it's mainly like culture, music, friendship. The first episode sort of just focuses on one conversation that takes place across multiple days, a phone conversation that takes place between 2 people across multiple days that can just go in all kinds of directions depending on your dialogue choices.
Are they young teens dating? Because that's the only people I know who would talk for multiple days on a phone.
They're both pretty lonely.
Oh, really?
And they're both sort of in separate situations. Like one is a composer who goes off into the Alps in order to gain inspiration up there because she's under pressure to write a musical composition. So it also brings in like writer's block as a theme as well. And then the way the conversation flows, the way your dialogue choices get built in to the conversation as it flows, feels really, really natural. Like the conversation is going to vary wildly in terms of what you choose for conversation. And you'll have like 5 minutes after you've made one dialogue choice, there'll be like a small, or 30 minutes after, there'll be like a small reference to a dialogue choice you made earlier. So it just sort of clicks the way the dialogue is handled in that game.
When you said it was pixel art, right?
Yeah.
Would we say it's that? So one of the problems that's bothering me lately is some games are so rough in their pixel art. There's a game that came out, Sword Sons, or just came out just a couple days ago. Damn it, I can't remember the name. But it's so rough and so low pixel that it's actually hard for me to even discern what's happening. Is this more of a high pixel art, like a high density, or is it more on the low side?
I would say it's pixel art similar to what you saw in 90s adventure games.
Okay, point and click adventure games.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, gotcha.
So similar to what you see in what was the Ron Gilbert game that came out earlier this year.
Thimbleweed Park, baby.
Thimbleweed Park, yeah.
Gotcha.
Similar to that, just in sort of a sepia tone. You can certainly tell what's going on. There's no voice acting in the game though. It is all just text. But I think that sort of helps the game because it puts the emphasis on the actual dialogue rather than the performance. So it sort of puts the emphasis on the writing and the dialogue, which I think works in this instance.
I'll have to check it out. And then
I do have a Let's Play of it where I do try to do all the voices for the characters. So
well,
if you absolutely want voice acting for it.
What would a Let's Play be if Silver wasn't pretending to be some Russian dude or something? He's awesome. You also didn't you talked about it, but then as you said prior to the podcast that you had talked about this game died via Gremlins, and you wanted to talk about it again, and that is of course Ultimate General or Ultimate
General Civil War. Yeah, it's
Ultimate General Civil War.
It's been taking up a lot of my hours.
I'll be right back. Go ahead, continue talking. I can hear you. I'm just going to grab some.
It's probably the best strategy game I've played in years. On a strategy level, I'd say it's even better than Total War. I'm certainly enjoying it more. Like, just the scale of the battles are just massive. Like, coming out of the Battle of Shiloh with 40,000 casualties and all.
Wait. You just said it was better than Total War?
Yeah, for me.
Fucker. I think you're lying. What? You really think that?
Yeah.
Now you've got me interested. Sorry, continue. I literally was over there doing something. I heard you say that. Why?
Just the scale of it. Like the fact that you take in like 100,000 or over 100,000 troops just on your side into battle. And the fact that the troops are named, so you have a brigade commanded by General Longstreet or whatever. It sort of humanizes them, so they're not just like, even though they are just textures basically walking around on the field. It humanizes them, and it makes it hurt when they get slaughtered. Like when you do Pickett's Charge as the Confederates and you just see your men get cut down, that hurts. Especially because afterwards you're going to have to refill those losses. So sometimes it's not always preferable to actually attack and try and win the battle, because trying to win the battle might cost you too much in terms of manpower and munitions and so on, and you're going to have to replace that in terms of the longer campaign and the longer war. So it might actually just be better to just pull back from the battle and actually accept that loss and then live to fight another day, rather than try and take that hill and lose like 30,000 men in the process.
So,
which is something I find really compelling.
We did discuss. I was going to ask you about retreat real quick. So we did discuss that most games don't really have a retreat. It's just die more or die less. With this game, do you think the humanization where they're naming, do you think that's the major reason where retreat becomes or feels valid? Or is it something else? Is it just the way it works?
It's the mix between the fact that they're named and the fact that you're going to have to replace them. Also, they win experience, they gain experience, they get better and better as the war goes on as well. So you have these really hardcore trained units that are really good and really valuable and really expensive, and you're going to want to take care of them, as opposed to sort of the new raw recruits who basically just become your cannon fodder, more or less. So it's sort of a mix between that. But also the AI in the game is really, really good. Like the main developer on the game is a former Total War modder who called himself Darth Mod, who was pretty famous in the Total War community. And he did a lot of AI mods for Total War. And he's the main developer on the game. And the AI just feels natural in the way it reacts to your tactics, the way it tries to flank you, the way it adapts to your flanking maneuvers. For the most part, it feels pretty natural. And it's really difficult, the game, even on its easiest difficulty. It's quite challenging. I
haven't played as much as you have. That's why I was so surprised by what you said. But you did segue us perfectly by talking about difficulty, because the next thing that Silver wanted to talk about was Fractured But Whole's difficulty slider. Basically turns you from white on easy to a black on hard. Basically skin color change. So it's the South Park, man, that full satire. They can get away with the craziest shit. And I don't think anybody expected that, but it certainly fits. What do you think? What do you guys think of that? I mean, like, Silver, is that something that do you like the idea, or are you just like, oh, whatever, it's just sort of them doing
I like the idea. I think it's hilarious. I think it's great satire. Absolutely.
Yeah, so do I. What about you, Go? I mean, does something like that make you go, oh, yeah? I mean, you're a GTA fan, so it must in some way.
Well, I'm also a huge South Park fan, and you know, I am looking forward to the new season and Fractured But Whole. I love Stick of Truth. Yeah. And I don't know, at the moment it could be taken one way or the other, but at the same time, I do see the point that Matt and Trey are trying to make with this whole thing where, in reality, life is a little bit easier, not completely for quote-unquote white people, and it can be more difficult for other groups out there. I mean, it's difficult for most people these days with taxes and struggling to make a living. So it's not trying to say everyone has it easy. It's just, I get the point that they're trying to make with this difficulty system in the game. It's an interesting decision, but it's something that Matt and Trey would definitely make when it comes to their games. Are the TV show.
Right. Yeah. What about you, Reg?
Well, I like it. I also like the other thing they added, which is now gender choice, which the first title also didn't have.
Yeah.
So you can now pick male, female, or other. And if you pick female, then then they referenced like the first game, like
they retcon it.
She was a girl all along.
Yeah, they retcon it. It's pretty.
Well, in the first game, you can dress up like a chick though. So if you want to technically want a female character, you can just keep the makeup on and the wig and
also apparently if you pick a female character, it also it asks you a follow-up question like if you're cisgendered or transgender.
And let's be honest, I can wear a dress. Doesn't mean I'll look like a girl. So
you don't want to see that.
Yeah. What about you, Moonraven? Is that something like that? Does that appeal to you, or do you just find it tasteless? What do you think of it?
It's not really my type of game. I haven't watched South Park for a long time, but yeah, it. What I understood is that it will not affect battle difficulty. It will just be the money you earn and speech. And it is actually nice to just have a bit of social commentary on that. So, yeah, on one hand, I do like that it's there.
Yeah. I think it's great. I also think you can take it both ways. You can take it one as being social commentary. And you can also take it the other way, which is that they think like people should stop bitching about it. And here we're just going to subtly change the color of your skin in the game, and that'll be it. There's different ways to talk about it, and I love that it's there. So it'll foster discussion that I'm sure will be heated, but always positive in the YouTube comments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Moving on to GB, he's got some stuff. The first thing was L.A. Noire.
L.A. Noire.
Its remake. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ironically one of the few Rockstar games I have yet to play, so I guess I'm going to get to in November. So I'm looking forward to it. It is coming to several consoles. First off to Xbox One, PlayStation 4. They also say it's going to look beautiful on both consoles, especially the upgraded versions, PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. For those of us that will be getting it, you lucky bastards. But anyways, I think that's what I'm looking forward to because they went on this whole point about how everything was going to look really good, the graphics, and they made this whole list about how it was going to look really, really good on PS4 and Xbox One. But then it's also coming to Switch, and it's going to involve the ability to use the Joy-Cons, which will be fascinating. But they mentioned nothing about the upgrade graphic-wise, so it'll probably be basically, I guess a port from last gen to current gen Switch, because the Switch probably couldn't handle at the same level that the PS4 and the Xbox One can handle it anyways. But the most interesting one that I think a lot of you guys, especially you, Karak, is fascinated about is HTC Vive.
Yeah, dude. That's when they said that, I was like, what the fuck? Because that requires some changing to the programming to have it actually work well. So it'll be interesting. And it's new. Is from what I understand, they said it's reworked with some new content. So we'll have to see what that exactly means. Very excited. Very excited. Let's see. Destiny 2 haters. Well, you know what? We'll cover Destiny 2.
Yeah, that's something we can all discuss later, yeah.
And then, some ranting about the latest free update to GTA, which I'm interested in because I just got it all reinstalled. So, So give us the rant.
A little backtrack in case some of you guys, need some catch up. All right, Strauss Zelnick, head of Take-Two, the publisher for Rockstar, 2K, Hangar 13, etc., he said in an interview a while back that he felt like that they were under-monetizing their games. And the reality is, we're starting to see that really happen in an online game like Grand Theft Auto Online. Now, when it originally came out in 2013, there were still shard cards around at the beginning, but the content in the game was not nearly as expensive. It was like a few $100,000 or maybe even $1 million for a sports car or supercar. Now things go into the millions of dollars. And in order to buy a Megalodon shard card, which is $8 million Grand Theft Auto currency, would cost you $100 US. Now, back in 2013, $8 million would buy you a lot of stuff in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now that would barely buy you anything. And with Smuggler's Run, it's just taking it to the whole new level. There's a lot of awesome content and involves aircraft. And I love the fact they have a lot of new aircraft, the ability to customize some of the aircraft as well with different liveries, color schemes, weapons, etc. But I don't like the fact that the price tag is rather huge, as a certain president likes to say. Now, if you take all the content, the day one content and the drip-fed content, which is 11 vehicles, by the way, that is yet to come out. They're going to drip those starting Tuesday, one at a time for the next 11 weeks. They say that it could cost about $80 million in Grand Theft Auto currency. Now, that equals 10 Megalodon shark cards. And that equals, wait for it, $1,000.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just sell my PC.
Yeah. I mean,
it's crazy.
yeah, it's sad. It's sad. I don't have much to say to that. That amount right there, I think that says it all. It's beyond.
Yeah.
And they've sold like 800 billion copies of the game because a lot of Twitch people give them away and stuff. And I think a lot of whales are Twitch fans, because I've talked to a lot of the people on Twitch, bigger Twitch streamers, and they're some of the whales because they want to cover the content. And I get that and everything, but at some point, that game in particular, I really do feel if a game comes up that sort of challenges it, PUBG being one of them, I do see that we're going to start seeing some people leaving. I think I would like to see that. How about that? I would because that is just insane. Has anybody ever said how much everything would cost?
Overall?
Yeah, there has to be somebody who's run the numbers for
from all the updates.
$10,000 easy.
I would say easily. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, there's obviously other games guilty of it, and yeah, technically you probably wouldn't be able to buy all the content anyways because you have a 20 aircraft limit for your hangar. But at the same time, it's just the thought that you theoretically could spend $1,000 real dollars on this free update. It boggles the mind. I mean, I realize it costs money to make this content. I realize it costs money to pay Sony, pay Microsoft in order to post it via the store so you can download it. I get that. But at the same time, I mean, they've made a ton of money off of Grand Theft Auto. A ton off the shark cards. And it's like, when you say it's under-monetized, Stross Zelnick, I mean, how far are you willing to go, especially in these tough economic times? I mean, eventually, like you said, Karak, there will be games that will come along, like PUBG and others, that will slowly but surely bleed away some of the fan base.
Yeah.
And it makes me fear what's coming regarding not Red Dead Redemption 2, but Red Dead Online, because they're going to have an online version. And I'm just very concerned how that's going to end up going.
Not to mention the concern on whether the focus is then going to be on the multiplayer, like it was with, turned out to be with GTA 5. Rather than single player for Red Dead 2.
Well, I definitely think that they're going to have a really good story campaign, because they do have a good story campaign for Grand Theft Auto 5. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like unless you get also an Undead Nightmare 2 with Red Dead Redemption 2, I think they're going to pretty much after that focus solely on the online aspect.
I don't even think they will release any single-player DLC for it, because they also promised it for GTA 5, and they never really did.
That's true.
It's just online because that makes them most money.
That's also one of the reasons why I might worry for even the Red Dead 2 single-player campaign, because before GTA 5 launched, they were sort of hedging their bets for both.
Yeah.
The question is, will they still do that? Sort of.
Well, I think it's the world that they're building is such a big world, and they've always been really good at that sort of thing, world building, that they will have a pretty good story campaign, and there'll probably be a lot to do, just like in usual Rockstar games. But I feel like unless we also get an Undead Nightmare 2 to go with that eventually, I do fear that, like you guys are saying, that their focus is going to be shifting all the way to Red Dead Online and updates. And it may start off similar to how I did with Grand Theft Auto Online with the quote-unquote cheaper updates, but as they add more content to the game, they're going to go more expensive with what are they going to call it. Some people say it's going to be called bonds or, I don't know what it's going to be called, but they're going to try the same tactic, I fear, and it's just sad. I mean, I don't have a problem with them making money.
Cougar cards. Because didn't you hunt cougar in that game? And Wildcats?
No, more appropriately, the cougars and the bears hunted you.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. So
yeah, they're basically just killing community goodwill. Sorry.
For me, one of the things. No, that's right. One of the things that really is cool about this, because I want to come away with one positive, and that's that other game developers are saying we'll never do this, and they're learning from those communities, and they're learning that, hey, we can take some of those communities, because if you take 1% from multiple communities that are pissed off and they're going to support your game, you could see some pretty tremendous stuff going on. So I think that is exciting in a landscape of horribleness. I don't even know what to say. There's not, it's beyond, it's come to a point now that the numbers are so high and that the audacity is so high that it is basically a skin color slider now, where you're just like, oh, yeah, that's expected. It's Matt and Trey did this. Yeah. Oh, Rockstar did this. And there isn't that moment where we're like, what the fuck? In fact, I don't know how they did it. They passed outrage because there's not a lot of people outraged about it. They're mad at Destiny. It still's got a 10-hour campaign and it's got a couple microtransactions when that thing is like fucking $10,000. It's just some weird shit going on. It'll be interesting. Red Dead scares the hell out of me because what I'm worried about is not that they will not have a good story. It's that we will see them do what so many others have done and they have not done yet, which is a short story. They've always done very well on having good, lengthy stories. And my worry is we're going to drop to what everybody else does, because the one special thing about Rockstar was that, and in GTA games, is that they were never... L.A. Noire was probably the shortest, I would say, one of the shortest Rockstar games. Bully wasn't as long. Yeah, nervous. Let's see. So
maybe we'll incorporate the microtransactions into the single player.
Yeah. What about you, Reg?
That would.
Yeah. I don't even want to get there. Reg, you had PUBG crossing 1 million concurrent players?
Correct.
That's awesome.
Holy shit.
I think more than 10 million copies sold so far and more than 1 million concurrent players now.
Dude, 1 million streamers right now are screaming subscribe. Damn, man. That's, good for them. Like I said, janky-ass game, looks terrible, and is fun. And so, to me, it's just, it's the tribal scream for fun factor mattering.
It's finally a game that beats Dota in the Steam rankings.
And it's beat everything, right? It's number one pretty much now everywhere. So that's
so. Isn't that game also starting to alienate its community a bit? We
talked about that last time.
Microtransactions.
Yeah, there is definitely. I think PUBG.
There are a couple of things. Microtransactions is one of them, and there are strange bans about stream sniping, stream honking, and whatever they have as bannable offenses are quite odd as well.
Yeah. We talked about this, unfortunately, in the Gremlin episode, but the fact is that a lot of the stuff that they banned for is like, you don't want to interject too many rules into a game that is basically no holds barred. And, stream honking, that's a deliciously apt, excellent tactic. And it's annoying, I get it. But guess what? I mean, it's smart. It's players being intelligent and going like, hey, this works to offset people. You have to figure a way around it.
Also, it's a bannable offense that you can't prove. I mean, you recognize, for example, a player name, honk at the guy, and you get banned because he claims you watched his stream and hunted him down. Yeah,
remove. If you're going to do that shit, remove horns. Just horns need to go. Like, you can't. You gotta choose one way or the other.
Yeah, I would agree with that totally.
Go ahead, Moonraven.
I just checked the ratings, and the recent is actually mixed, and the most upvoted have been negative because of bans.
Yeah.
Even some things that are like, well, I was stream sniping according to them, but I don't know. So.
Yep. Oh. I think it's just a stupid offense that should not be one.
Yeah, for sure.
And it is really easy to implement a long delay. So that
I'm totally on board what basically Blizzard said back then. Asked the question is like, well, if you're showing everybody where you are, it's your problem.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just some really. I think we see it sometimes in games where they grow big, and the people aren't prepared for it, and it happens in any system. And I think PUBG has exploded, and I just don't think they're prepared for it. They don't have enough people to moderate things. They don't have enough people to sit down and say, "Let's take a second and let's look at this. Let's run some numbers and decide what we need to do." Also, the consistent horn. I mean, cars do have consistent horns, but if you wanted to make it so that you couldn't just fucking hammer it for a long time or what, there's different ways around it. But personally, I like the idea. I like that it's there, and I think that instead what you should do is add a hitbox to all vehicles where the horn turns off if you shoot it. And that way it becomes a tactical thing where it's like, okay, you fucker, you're honking the horn. I'm going to shoot your car and turn that horn off. Who knows? It's probably
and then
already
an accompanying sound effect, like when a police siren starts to die. Like, yeah,
I knew exactly where you're going. Yeah, like those explosions where the only thing left is the light bar and a horn. Yeah. And then South Park we discussed, and then your question, or not question, your comment about do reviewers need to be good at games. While we did talk about that before, yesterday US Gamer mentioned me. Thanks, US Gamer. But they mentioned me and a couple other YouTubers in their long discussion about Cuphead and should reviewers be good at games to review them. Moonraven, should reviewers be good at games to review them?
Well, good enough for a basic sense. To be fair, in most cases, they are not there to do a let's play, not to show off how good they are, what tricks they are. They are there to critique the game. But if you're going to make a video showing, well, what the game is, and you can't figure out a dash for literally minutes while it's actually on screen how to do it, you probably shouldn't have uploaded that video. You should have just retried later, have someone else do it. So, to a certain sense, yeah, they need to have at least some knowledge of the game, or at least how to play it, but should they really be pro gamers? No, of course not. It's not their job. We've got streamers for that.
Yeah, that's true. What about you, Reg?
Well, pretty much the same. I think even with that example, it's going as far as him actually not doing reviews anymore, as far as I gathered. It was like just filming the early impressions of that game. But the actual review will be done by somebody else. But it was pretty painful to watch, in all honesty. And also, like, not recognizing later on that jumping onto enemies hurts you and not them. I'm not sure how you can work in that industry and not recognize how a game's mechanic are, and how you could ever judge a game if you don't recognize what's in there, what the rules are. I think that's basically my main issue with it. If you recognize what the game tries to tell you, what the rules are, but you can't execute properly on them, I think that's fair. You don't have to be a pro gamer, but I think you should get the basic concept. And if you critique the game, if you actually suck, basically, I think that's fine as long as you're aware of that.
Yeah. What about you? Go ahead.
And also maybe disclose the fact in your review, because there are many people that suck. And I think if they have a reviewer that's on their level, that's perfectly fine as well.
Right. What about you, Go?
Well, I'm one of the gamers that sucks, so I'm okay with it. As long as it's someone that's knowledgeable about things to look for when it comes to a review, like you. I'm not saying you're a bad gamer, but I'm holding you up to the high pedestal of what a reviewer should be. Someone that can go in there, look at the graphics, look at the sound, music, and the fun factor as well, and be able to take all these issues and decide whether or not this is a good or an okay or a mediocre game. So I realize that there are really good streamers out there and let's play YouTubers that are very good at playing video games. I'm not one of them, but that's something that my subscribers love about me. They love it whenever I try, but I do screw up and I do get salty. So it happens. I just embrace it,
Salty. What about you, Silver?
I think it's a bit tricky. I mostly agree with you guys, but there's something like inside me that sort of resists the idea of an inherent skill level that you need to be at in order to review, like even at some level. Because reviews ultimately to me are a reflection of that person's experience with the game. So even if the person is totally incompetent at the game, if that's his experience with the game, as long as he's honest about it, as long as he's honest about that's his skill level and that's how he experienced the game, I don't really have an issue with it. Like you play Dark Souls and you can't even get past the first boss or whatever. Fine, okay, just admit that and just tell your story from that point of view, and how your experience was from that point of view. I don't mind that.
At that point, shouldn't you, in the case of a website or a group of people, hand it over to someone else so you can get a second opinion, or maybe completely hand it over?
Well, sure, but that's the decision of the website whether they want to give that review to you. Then, well, I mean that's the editorial decision of that particular website. Then, to make that decision whether or not you're the right person for that review. And I would then question that possibly, but I wouldn't necessarily say that invalidates your experience with the game and your review.
Well, but at that point, it's probably, it might be an experience, but it's no longer a review if they're that bad if you can't actually get through the game.
You know, that is a fair point.
So, okay. I was just reading up to see if anybody has updated about this, and he just posted this morning a thing called "My Cup Runneth Over," and a lot of it is basically about this, and he states very clearly that he's not going to apologize for not being the greatest at the game, and that somebody else posted just 2 minutes of the absolute worst bits and didn't post the rest, whatever. My personal belief is that, first of all, I'm starting to get really jaded towards the reviewer, journalist, / streamer, / Twitch player, / blah, 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 let's player, / fucking titles. Because, first of all, what makes a reviewer? Nothing. So whenever any motherfucker comes on my channel and says, why are you guys listening to this guy? He's blah, blah, blah. Just go and buy it. First of all, don't force other people to spend their money without some kind of recourse. Second, your best friends, if you say in the same sentence, just go ask your friends, they're reviewers now. They're just not good. Sorry. And so that's the way it is. A reviewer on YouTube is a game player who in some way outfits the information that he's going to deliver to you in a way that is fairly digestible for you. And that's it. That's all they are. A journalist is nothing more than the same thing who writes. I'm sorry, but whenever I hear anybody talk about how, like, there's the, special requirements, there aren't. There aren't when it comes to skill. There are when it comes to clarity and where you are, how you stand, and for sure, and how it works in the game, and if you're very open to specific things. I think another problem is because streamers are big and because viral video is big, it's easier to grab a couple minutes of bad footage and pretend it means something. That, Doom. Polygon played Doom, and that was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. It was so painful to watch in an embarrassment. I don't mean physical pain, because people have real physical pain. Fuck that. I hate when people talk like that. I take it back. I was very embarrassed by the gameplay. Like, if that had been me, I'd be like, what is happening? This is embarrassing. But at the same time, it doesn't stop that person, as long as they're open about their skill set. It doesn't stop them from reviewing a game as long as they're clear. Also, fuck anybody in this world who is going to pretend they're good at every game right away. Fuck you, you're a liar. And you should never be allowed to talk about games again. I hate that shit. Anybody who tries to come in and say that they're amazing at games, at every game, bullshit. There are games that you just won't be amazing at because of the way in which it requires you to play. And that's okay. But people have such an ego, I think, connected to it. And some people, like this guy, who's just like, here's my, here's what I did. He doesn't have an ego. And I think sometimes people see that as his lack of information or his lack of understanding. Sometimes people are just like, yeah, I suck at this. Like Go said, oh, yeah, I'm not fucking very good at this game. Like, it doesn't work. I'm really good at first-person shooters, and then I'll get a first-person shooter, and I'll be like, I can't fucking hit anything. And you never...
You need to get good.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, exactly.
As the internet would say.
As the collective of the internet would say. But it's a sad state of affairs that we have all this like desire for control of information, and yet at the same time we say everybody should be allowed to have a say. And these are the same people saying it. They'll be like, everybody should be allowed to have a say, but that motherfucker over there, no, he shouldn't. It's like that. There's absolutely no connection between those two things, and that's what saddens me. It saddens me that there's a desire to curb information. I got it on the Destiny review, where people were saying, "Whoa, what's that?" Somebody's. Oh, that was Moonraven. So sometimes what you'll get is no, that's all right. You'll get situations where for Destiny, people were mad at me. They said, "Well, how can you review it without the raid?" And my response was, "How can they charge without the raid?" So fuck off. This desire to curb information is scary as hell to me, because I'm going to tell you right now, if Silver had played 1 hour of Destiny and I talked to Silver, then I would take his information as having played 1 hour of Destiny, and that's fine. But I would never curb him and say he's not allowed to talk about it because some arbitrary amount of information has not been delivered to the title yet. Fuck off. They should not charge for it then. And so all of this kind of, it's really a destructive pattern of like saying that people can't talk about things and can't do things. The one time we've talked about this is like sports games. Should a JRPG person who isn't good at sports games, should they review a sports game? And I think that you most likely would not want to. It would sort of be like a baker reviewing a fucking high-performance vehicle. But as long as they say, guess what, guys? I bake bread, and now I'm going to talk about this Maserati. Then you know what? I might watch it, and it might be fun. You never know what would happen. So, again, it's just all about clarity of purpose. Like, why are you there? What are you trying to tell people? What's important to you? And move from there. But I would agree.
I mean, yeah, talking about that the same way, it's like all those reviews that got posted, going off just those 15 or whatever hours of preview event.
It wasn't even... It wasn't even end code. It wasn't even end code. And in fact, when I got invited, they were like, this is a preview event. And then somehow, I even stated this in the description, somehow between then and now, they were told that they could say those were reviews. And then somebody got mad at me and said, you posted a review. And I'm like, well, first of all, I stayed up all night and I got it on New Zealand time. So I had it about 14 hours before anybody else did. So, well, unless you're in New Zealand. I apologize to the 2 New Zealanders who were playing Destiny 2 with me. But you have this situation where somehow between their preview event and the game being released, they were told it's okay to lodge those as reviews. And some said impressions, but most actually just stated Destiny 2 review.
Yeah, the one I actually checked out was IGN Germany.
IGN Germany?
It was like 8.9 or something was the rating. And there was like one line that said, disclaimer, during the event, we could not finish the campaign. We will update the score if that changes anything. It's like...
Yeah. Okay. I was able to finish campaign, play a bunch of strikes, whatever. You know, people can...
Yeah.
You know.
It very much reminds me of what happened with Metal Gear Solid 5. If you remember, they had a similar preview event with Konami.
Preview event, yeah.
Yeah, prior to the launch.
And I'm not a big fan of
people used as basis for the review.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of those because it's a lot of multiplayer in that game too, and you know, you don't know how the connections are going to go. You know, how's it going to play? So that's it for Reg's. My bit was going to be about LA Noire, but Go brought it up, and I again super excited. Can't wait to play VR and get in the face of John Noble. Be like, fucking, what's up, John? I know you're the bad guy, motherfucker. I cannot wait. Even in the blurry fucking VR world that I live in when I play VR, I'm super stoked for that. So now we're gonna jump to something that everybody loves and is always incredibly interesting when it comes to international podcast, and that's personal time. Everybody asks for it, and we always say, "What are you doing?" Nothing. So you better make up some good lies. Unfortunately, Moonraven has to go first. So what basically personal time is you just talk about stuff outside of games that you're interested in? Hobbies, what you're doing this weekend, what you're not doing? Go for it.
Well, apparently I'm not gaming because I'm not allowed to talk about that.
Yeah, no gaming, no gaming.
That's my life. But yeah, basically most of it was work. I am going to an open air concert thing this weekend, if it's not too rainy.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all on the grass and it's probably all mud now because it's been raining here for, most of the day. And yeah, that's actually most of what I'm going to do this weekend.
Gotcha. Are you interested in anything that's coming up in the next couple weeks or months that's outside of gaming? Movies? Records?
Not really.
No?
If I want to go see a movie, I've got a subscription to the local cinema here. So I'll just check and go to whatever. So, I'll see.
Copy that. Reg, you going to the Alps again?
No, probably just next week, like a day trip or something to Hungary.
Oh, wow. Just a day trip to Hungary. I can say just a day trip to watch the fire burning in the back, but that's it. Like, you have cool shit. He's like, one day he's all, I'm taking my mother and we're going to the Alps. And of course, in my brain, I'm thinking Forza. And I'm like, this fucker's like got his mom in the back seat, just went, whoa. So you're just taking a trip. You just, And what do you do? Just walk around, sightsee, eat?
Just a bit sightseeing, grabbing some stuff from the supermarket we don't have here, stuff like that.
Gotcha. So speaking of different foods, because we've talked about this before a little bit, like, is there particular things that you're interested in that are there that you guys don't get where you are? Because you mentioned that. There are
a couple of things.
Like what's something you like or dislike or just want to try?
Cherry Coke. For example, we have no Cherry Coke.
Dude, you live in a place that's banned Cherry Coke. It's the end of the world.
Just don't have it.
Really? Okay, gotcha. So Cherry Coke it is. People will travel a long time, full day trip for some Cherry Coke. Copy that.
I haven't had it in such a long time.
Yeah. Anything else, Reg?
Apart from that, nothing big non-gaming. No.
Wait, you know what? People watch because we're gaming freaks, so that's all right. What about you, GB?
Next week, I'm going to be going out of town for a few days because one of my sisters is going to be celebrating her 20th birthday, so I'm going to go down there, hang out with them, and we'll probably go watch It next week, so I'm looking forward to watching that. Scared me when I was a kid, Tim Curry as Pennywise, and so far it's been getting really good reviews, so I'm very interested in seeing how good it is. Hopefully, it will not disappoint. But, so I'm going to take a few days off starting, I guess, maybe like Thursday through the weekend, and I'll be on the road in Tejas.
We'll need to have you give us a little GB review for It.
Go Burns from the road.
Yeah. As you're wearing clown makeup as you're driving. You're like,
I'm a big float, Karak.
Yeah, we all float down here, Karak. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what you think of it. Anything else that you got going on?
Except for the road trip, that's about it. I gotta do a lot. You have to make videos in preparation. That's why I have stuff to schedule for the channel coming up. But other than that, going outside because it's been really nice the past few days. I mean, it feels like fall's in the air. Or at the very least, we're being teased in the South by fall. But I can't decide which one. I'm hoping that summer's over because I'm not really a summer fan.
Right.
But it has been nice, sunny. Like upper 70s, lower 80s. Not too shabby. So I've been able to do some yard work in the backyard with my dog. That's been fun. So pretty much that's all I've been doing.
Very cool. What about you there, Silver?
I have a shout out for Norwegian imposter who had from our community who had his birthday yesterday. Ooh. We played For Honor last night. It was a lot of fun. But this weekend I'll probably be reading. I have a book called A Life Worth Living, which is about one of my favorite writers, philosophers, Albert Camus. And I'll be watching the final season of Hell on Wheels.
Oh, yeah. Good show.
And I may go visit a lady friend.
Visit a lady friend.
A lady friend.
Netflix and chill.
Yeah, Netflix and chill. Silver's like, do you want to hear me do my voices? I do incredible voices. You want to hear my Russian?
Who do you want
Steal
me
my
to
goddamn
be?
routine.
I'm a cunning linguist.
That's not cool.
Is it still you want to go get some coffee? Or is it Netflix and chill for everybody now?
Yeah, are you past the level? Where are you in this? Is this like the first time you're going to visit her, Silver?
No comment.
You brought it up.
Yeah, no shit. It's like saying, hey, see this door that's top secret? Can't get in. Well, no shit. It says top secret on it.
Man, that's one of the great things about video games. That's when you see those doors and you know there's something behind there.
Yeah, we're busting down the door, bitch. Yeah. We're busting down the door.
Speaking of that, okay, yesterday when I'll save Silver right here, distract him. So yesterday I was driving down the road, and I don't exactly live in an area where there's like a whole bunch of really nice cars, maybe some Beamers, maybe some Lexuses, but driving down the road, a big black beautiful Lamborghini.
Oh wow!
And I was just like, what? Because you don't see that every day in real life. In Grand Theft Auto, yeah, you see that all the time.
Exactly. They're leaving Florida. They were evacuating. Did you see a rocking chair on the top and shit? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only seen one or two in my life, actually, because where we live, everybody thinks it's cool to fucking pedal around and, like I always say, not take showers. So, nicest car is probably ours. Let's see. What am I doing? So I am excited for this non-gaming stuff. I'm going to watch probably most of Fringe this weekend as I work on some stuff. I love comfort shows that I've seen before, so that way I can watch them, but if something happens around me, I won't be disturbed and go, oh, I need to restart the show or something like that. So I'm stoked to rewatch Fringe. John Noble, amazing as Walter in that. One of the best acting performances that I can remember in a long time. And then let's see what else. It sounds like tomorrow I'll have some people over for a barbecue. We'll see if that actually occurs or not. Sometimes I just get a little tuckered out and I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't get sleepy tired. I just get tired of people. I'm like, yeah, I got something to do, and then what that something turns into watching Fringe. I just don't want people over, so we'll see. We'll see. It may be a bunch of people. Airsoft. I'm always excited about Airsoft. I got some games planned or starting to get planned this summer, so I'm really excited for that. And then I'll probably do some volunteering again for Houston and for Florida, depending on how bad that they get hit, and do some donations there. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, Go was saying that, like, where he is, it's pretty nice weather. That's because over here it's fucking on fire, and over here it's wet, and you're right there where it's like everything's coming together, and you're Goldilocks. You're like, this bed is perfect, Karak. But we have some pretty crazy stuff going on in Oregon, and a lot of my friends are out fighting fires. So I want to see how they're doing, but donate and stuff like that. Try to give people shit, because a lot of people's homes, I mean, it's just, it's crazy when you're like, oh, everything got destroyed, especially flooding, which destroys everything.
Yeah.
Like it's not like an earthquake where maybe you can pick out some clothes and still wear them. It's like everything is ruined. And that is some sad shit. Yeah, it's terrible. And probably write some music this weekend, actually. For some reason, I've been interested in doing that again. Yeah. We got Fruity Loops open back up. I used to use some of the other more complex ones, but Fruity Loops works for me. Sit back, pretend I know what I'm doing, and make a beat, and then pretend I'm a musician, and then go play games, which is something I'm better at. We'll jump from that, I think, unless anybody else has.
I do actually have a story just to make up for my secrecy.
The Silver interruption. I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Go, Silver.
Well, I'm predictable.
You are.
I'm nothing but predictable.
You are. Go for it.
Just in my continued adventures in stupidity, like this is a couple of weeks ago, but like I was sitting in the metro, and there was a big guy, like he was wearing this dress shirt that was much too small for him. So it basically just reached his belly button, and he had a big beer gut. So revealed quite a bit. And he was standing there, and he was starting to get violent. Like he was walking around threatening people, actually doing the De Niro bit. Like, are you looking at me? Are you looking at me? Like getting in people's faces. And eventually, it got to the point where I made the mistake that I got up And I walked over to him and I said, could you please calm down for a second? And he did not take that well. He lunged at me. I thankfully managed to dodge, and the other people in the train got up, and then he stopped and backed down. But that was really stupid. And if you're in that situation, don't get up. Just sit down like everyone else.
What I like is Silver said, thankfully I dodged. Like he hit the A button. Did you realize that? If you listen,
yeah,
he's so many games. He's like, I rolled an 18 on my dodge.
Video
luckily,
game reflexes.
Luckily, I parried to the side. Yeah, exactly. Without becoming an illegal conversation.
Aside from the dress shirt, the funny thing is he was wearing Adidas pants and sweats and sneakers. So
he's
that's
a GTA
sort of
character.
That's sort of the sign of a guy who doesn't give a fuck.
GTA character. I'll agree with that and say,
like Trevor, is that you?
Especially with when you're younger, you do stupid stuff, and I've done some pretty incredible stupid stuff and suffered both the agony of defeat and the blessing awesomeness of victory. But I will tell you this: defeat these days might be the end of your life. So it's best if Mr. Crazy Pants is there and he's giving you all the signs that do not disturb, probably best to just not disturb.
Yeah, he was just looking for a fight, and I gave him the excuse. So
yeah,
how nice of you.
You could have spun that to where, hey, guess what I did the other day on the train? I stood up. And instead, he spins it a completely different way. You could have gone either way with that one, Silver.
True. Yeah.
You could have said, like, I parried his attack defensively and then explained to him that the art of war.
Of his ways.
And the error of his ways.
I rolled a natural 20.
Yeah, I rolled. I applied the arm lock, and as his face was against the tram chair, I discussed with him the error of his ways. That would have been. But instead, Silver's like, I stood up. He took a swing at me. Everybody else stood up, and that's the end. Good story, Silver. You're like that old person at the family reunion who tells a story, and you just, like I said in Destiny, you want them to be done because you're like, there's no end. It's just, that's it.
You need some editing.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm going to edit Silver so that conversation sounds like 10 times better. You'll see us bouncing around, but it's like, I'll take different things he said through the podcast about like killing people in games or whatever.
It has the Rocky theme in the background when he stands up.
Yeah, no shit.
Well, no shit. It does remind me of Destiny 1. I could tell you.
Yeah, I could. Peace out, and then walk off. All right, so that is it with personal discussion. Looking here at QA, we have a ton of questions. This is from patrons. Kurt asks, is there a game you've ever had to mute because the sound effects, the voice, or the soundtrack was so bad? And yes, for me, Alakine's Gun. I reviewed it and listened to it the entire time I was reviewing it, and then as I continued to play it to sort of find out how long it would take and stuff, I had to turn some of those off. It's one of the worst overall audio experiences I've ever had. Anybody out there, we'll just throw it out to the group. Has anybody got a game where they're like, and it doesn't have to be all of them, but like the sound effects you were just not happy with?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Can't remember the game, but something that's repeating in several games is like repeating audio snippets of NPCs. Like, yes, Roger, yes. It's like,
right.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Or in RPGs, especially if you go to the market and you hear the same thing repeated over and over again.
Their masterworks all. You can't go wrong. Sorry.
That's
Dragon's
usually
Dogma, baby.
Then at the point where I say, okay, I'm listening to something else while I continue playing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. Either A, if you don't have enough like library for dialogue, just put people talking in the background, like the noise that sounds when there's large people gathering, to give the impression psychologically that you're in a large market with a lot of people, instead of having someone say the same crap over and over again. I mean, there's still times in Grand Theft Auto where I run into an NPC who says something I never heard before, and the game's been out for nearly 4 years now.
Right. Yeah, that's true. What about you, Silver or Moonraven? You guys got any games?
Yeah,
go for it.
Mostly with music. Like if it's atonal or just interferes too much, I'll kill it.
But do you have an example? Because we know that.
Sentinels of the Multiverse. I'm not really a big fan of the music soundtracks in that. I find they sort of disturb me, so
Gotcha.
I usually kill them.
They disturb you, so I kill them, and that will be cut so that it goes at the part where he talks about it. And I stood up, and it disturbed me, and I kill them. That'd be awesome. What about you, Moonraven? You got any games, any examples? No?
No, I can't really.
It's okay if you don't have
anything.
One
Probably
thing that
just music. It's because it's not really helpful with the game, but other than that, not really.
One thing that bothers me is the saccharine, really high sound in like a Destiny Warriors when somebody hits with a sword and it's like shing, and you're all, I hit a dude in the face. What is happening? Like all those sounds are really truncated and sometimes they're tinny. That's I would say a lot of times where I notice when something's better versus my expectation that they'll be terrible. But yeah, it's a good question. Very good question. Jonathan says, do you have any favorite voice actors that immediately make a game seem better to you, especially if you weren't expecting them? For me, I'm always happy to hear Laura Bailey in a game ever since I picked her as my boss in Saints Row in SR 3 and 4. Picked her as my boss in
Saints Row 3. You can have a male or female boss, and they have different voice actors for each version.
Boss?
So she's one of the options you get. The main character of Saints Row.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha.
The boss, yeah.
Which one?
Is there any voice actors for you guys?
I like Laura Bailey as well.
I'm not sure what his name is. I think Richard Stephen Horvitz. He was the voice actor of Sim, of Invader Sim, and every time I hear him somewhere, that's
what you think?
Yeah. That's just awesome.
What about you, Moon? You got any voice actors?
I'm really bad with names, so that's always a hard one. But I do agree with Saints Row 3. The really British actor really loved that one, and really don't know who it is, but that really made the game a lot better. Just good voice acting. Yeah.
What about you, Silver?
I have a lot. Stephen Roswell. Cameron Clark, like most famous for Solid Snake's brother, Liquid, in Metal Gear Solid. Also Leonardo in the Turtles, as I recall. Yeah, those are sort of the two main ones. Also, I forget his name, but I forget some of the names, but they're in quite a lot of games. But yeah, I have a lot of favorite voice actors to sort of elevate games for me.
No. For me, I only have one. Michael Hogan, who played Colonel Ty in Battlestar Galactica. He's in Mass Effect and he's in Skyrim and a couple other games. That guy, if you said that like there's going to be a game, it's an open world game, and you're him, I would almost for sure be one of those people that breaks all my rules and gets really excited about something because there's something about his voice, and I love the dude. He's just one of the coolest guys in the world, and so that guy, without a shadow of a doubt, is by far the top. I like a lot of voice actors, but a lot of them sound the same. Troy Baker's a great voice actor, but because of the direction and because of the large number of things he's done, sometimes things start to sound like Troy Baker's Troy Baker and the Troy Baker Show, and you're just like, okay, I get it. Yeah. Especially when you understand that the dude's been both the Joker and Batman. That's when you have to go, okay, maybe we need to get somebody else.
Michael Ironside, too.
Michael Ironside. Nolan North is another one that sounds a little too normal all the time. Michael Ironside, I would play the shit out of. The Splinter Cell lie that Ubisoft spread, which was a lie, we now know was a complete lie. Michael Ironside not being Sam Fisher made a huge dent for me.
Yeah,
huge
me too.
Dent.
I got one.
Go for it.
Lane Compton, who voiced John Donovan in Mafia 3.
Yeah. But so we like that, but I think the question's more like, once we know who they are, have we gravitated to a game?
Well, he's still relatively new, so I mean, this was kind of his, I guess, breakout role as a voice actor, but I'm interested in seeing what he ends up doing down the road, so
yeah, me too.
Just be on the lookout for Lane Compton in future games, hopefully.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if that was voice direction or the actor, you know, because like we get that too, where the voice actor for Garrett is great in some games, and then other games you're like, what is happening? So, Worf, who voices
Michael
Worf?
Dorn.
Michael Dorn's the same way. I love Michael Dorn, but he's got the emotional, you know, flexibility of fucking Iron Band. But if you direct him and put him in the proper job, proper NPC, you can have. He's fucking incredible. His it sounds like a bass filter just the entire time. You know.
He did a decent job voicing Prometheus in, you know, the latest season of Arrow.
Yeah, he's. So I like him a lot. Yeah. No, I would agree. Richard says, is the PS4 Pro worth buying for an original PS4 owner between the larger hard drive and the improved visuals? With places like GameStop offering $200 for trading in an old PS4 towards a Pro, that covers half the cost. Silver? PS4 Pro.
I don't have one. I don't have an interest in getting one, so I'm probably not the best one to ask about this.
No, you're the perfect one, because he's now saying that there's a deal, there's trade-ins, it looks better, but what you're saying is still doesn't matter. Pretty much, right?
Precisely.
Okay.
I have an original PlayStation 1, or PlayStation 4, sorry. So
one. He's like, talking about Sega Master System games and shit.
I have a PlayStation 1. I don't need to upgrade.
I don't. He's like the guy who just told me I should play Warframe over and over. Listen to this. This is no lie. Somebody had the audacity to post this. Instead of buying Destiny 2, new game, by the way, Destiny 2, new game, new stuff, you should just go and play Warframe again. Because Destiny 2 is just repeated stuff. And I'm like, holy shit, that's Inception right there. If you listen to what you just said, you're saying to go and repeat stuff, because the new thing that isn't repeated stuff will repeat stuff at some time. So that is some crazy shit. What about you there, Reg? Is there any reason for a PS4 Pro?
I don't necessarily think so. I mean, $200 for an upgrade is still too much.
Yeah.
If it's another situation and you say you don't have a PS4 right now and you want one, then it might be something else. Then I personally would at least go for the Pro. But it is an upgrade for already having one. I don't think so. Especially if your reason is storage space, then just get an USB 3 to drive and connect it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Moonraven?
Also, sorry.
Moonraven. Nope. Moonraven's.
No. Okay.
You cannot. No silver interjection. Let Moonraven go. Go.
Yeah.
Well, I actually agree with both of them. I personally don't have a PlayStation 4. I haven't bought it because there are not really a lot of games that really appeal to me that aren't either on the Xbox One or on the PC or on the Switch. So I would probably just get it for Horizon Zero Dawn, and to be fair, I'll wait some more because I've waited so long already.
Yeah.
So should you do it? I still think that $200 is a lot to upgrade for not a lot of extra benefits of it. From what I heard, it's just some boost in performance sometimes, but it's also more unstable sometimes.
Destiny 2. What about you, Silver?
Yeah.
You were going to add something.
That was just precisely the point, because like one of the members of our community, Sophia, had a major issue with her PS4 and Destiny, where it would crash.
PS4 Pro.
And I mean,
PS4 Pro.
Yeah, PS4 Pro. Yeah. Where it would crash, and it was just the Pro. That was the problem apparently, and there was also apparently a problem with the Tomb Raider, the Rise of the Tomb Raider demo.
Yeah.
Where it would crash as well.
I guess I would agree. I would say that if you don't have a PS4 and you're going to get one, don't get the normal PS4, get the Pro, obviously. I think that is just good overall sense, because if you've waited this long, then a little bit of extra money will get you a better resolution. Not often do you get a better frame rate, but you for sure will get a better resolution. But overall, I would say if you're just upgrading for the reasons why you said, I would agree with these guys. I don't necessarily see a big reason to upgrade. And here's the thing, guys. Scalers, by the way, before anybody shits themselves, I'm not saying native and scaled unnative are the same. I'm just explaining something. Televisions, Xbox One S, and so forth that have good scalers to 4K can make a 1080p picture look pretty good on 4K. And then you have native, let's say 4K, or checkerboarded 4K on a PS4 Pro. The difference is going to be noticeable, but it'll be a mid-gap notice. So you have, like, let's say 1080p, then you have this upscaled, and then you have checkerboard, and then you have native. And I'm not quite sure 200 is a good amount to fit into sometimes better, sometimes not better at all. I just think that, unfortunately, Sony had a huge botch in how they rolled that out, and they haven't really recovered yet from it. So, let's see. Kevin Assplan. That cannot be his real name, because if it is, man, he's probably a badass because he got beat up a lot in school. With games similar to Destiny 2, where it's basically guaranteed to get a constant stream of content and updates that may or may not change fundamental parts of the game. Oh, this is for me. Do you usually go back and do a re-review? I'll be short. I do if I can, but for example, No Man's Sky, sorry, it didn't raise the score, even though they upgraded it. If the game is already a buy, unless the game got worse, I can't go above a buy. So there's no reason to re-review and say, guess what? It's a buy or buy. It's a remaster of a buy. That doesn't make any sense. But yes, if I have the chance, I certainly will. I've done it a couple times, but it has to be substantial because my grouping is quite large. I only have 4 ratings, guys. So if I had 250 ratings, or a 1 to 100 scale, I could be like 99 or 98. Okay, let's do a re-review, but I don't. Mine are a larger gap there. C. Milio, who was going to be on the podcast and didn't get a chance, asked a question. Have we talked about the Star Citizen face transmitting thing shown off at Gamescom? I'm really excited by this, and yet I have no clue what he's talking about. Does anybody know?
Yeah,
you do.
It's just basically transfixing your face onto the game character.
Oh, you mean like
sort of
NBA
face.
Jam, where you got or NBA, that one game where you got the weird
sort of game face? Yeah.
Okay, great. No, we haven't talked about it, but to me, I don't want my face. No. I want to make a character. I've never seen those look good. Has anybody seen? Like, they look like low resolution maps of IO.
They look pretty good in like the demos they showed off. For Star Citizen.
Yeah, sure. I mean, right? Like, how much do you want to make a bet though that they're not using a fucking C920 Logitech,
but also
webcam?
Like my main concern with that is that it's just another sort of unnecessary feature they've announced.
Right.
Yeah. Where maybe they should just sort of focus on getting the game done, rather than keep adding stuff like that.
That's of course understanding that those two can exist at the same time. You can still add little things and work towards the end. But I agree with you. At some point, most developers go, okay, here's the cutoff point.
We're gonna lock it down. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Even in Steam, when Silver and I go to buy early access, because we still engage in that stupidity, you'll see it. If you read it, sometimes they'll be like, "This is feature locked." It's just we're doing this and this and this. Star Citizen hasn't been feature locked yet, which is mind-boggling.
But from what I can actually gather on the internet is that it's actually streaming your face onto your character. So
odd.
That's really odd.
There's gonna be dickheads. Yeah, somebody's gonna do. Somebody's gonna do a penis.
The same thing I had with WWE 2K17 and NBA and whatever. I've got a beard. It's a problem.
It is a problem, isn't it? Yeah, mine comes up and I look like Moonface. I look like I was a child on steroids. You just get that fat face, and they're like, "It's not gonna work." Yeah, that's great. I don't know anything about this. I'm excited to take pics of my penis and put it on for viewers to watch. So stay tuned. Karak's penis. Robert Sims says, "What's your favorite board game?" Moonraven went last, so I'll go first this time. What's your favorite board game?
Oh, that's a really hard one. I really like social deduction games like Werewolf and Secret Hitler.
Yeah, gotcha. Wait a minute.
It's not really a board game or a card game, but
Secret Hitler?
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't know that?
Okay. We have to play that.
Oh man. It's the greatest name for a game ever. I've never even heard of that game. Ever. Not even heard of it. And wow, Secret Hitler. God damn, I gotta write that down. Okay.
We're going to talk about this later.
So anyway, so one of your favorite games is that. What is Secret Hitler?
You have, at least 5 players, preferably more, up to 10 players. They're both divided in 2 parties, liberals and fascists. One of the fascists is Hitler. Depending on the number of players, so from 7 and up, Hitler does not know who his fellow fascists are.
Right.
Problem is, liberals also do not know who the fascists are. Fascists know who each other are. And they will, try to force fascist cards. So you've got the deck of cards. Most of them are fascist, some are liberal. And you first elect both a president and a chancellor. If the majority actually votes yes on the selection, it will go through, and they will actually be able to play cards. President draws 3, puts 1 away, gives the 2 to the chancellor, and he picks the last one. Could be that the first one, the president, is a fascist, so he puts a liberal card away. And maybe had 1 liberal, 2 fascists, so there are only 2 fascist cards left. Since it's all face down, who knows what happened? And you get a lot of debates. Could even be that you give a choice to the chancellor, and the chancellor screws you over. And then he's like, I didn't have a choice. And you're like, you freaking did, mate.
Oh,
so there's a lot of plays there, and it can be useful to eliminate another player and yourself by, screwing someone over and having a debate about it. And it's a lot of mind games there. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool. What about you, Reg? Is favorite board game?
Can't think of board game.
You do role playing though instead, right? Do you have a favorite role playing system?
It's been a long time. Pathfinder was the last one we played.
Gotcha. Has it been a long time? I was under the assumption you guys were still making a go at like maybe a monthly game or something.
Didn't I don't know. Didn't work. It
never pans out, does it? What about you, GB? Are you a big board game fan? And if so,
yeah, but my love is old school, like Monopoly or Risk.
Right.
So those are my 2 faves, I guess. Or chess. I also like chess.
Oh, chess. Yeah, definitely. What about you, Silver?
Yeah, that was basically my answer. Chess is my favorite board game. But I do have an honorary mention for a game called London Dread, which I've played a couple of times with friends, which is a lot of fun. It's set in like Victorian London and has these like horror stories mysteries that you have to solve. And there are 2 phases, and one of the phases is a planning phase that's timed, where you have to coordinate with your teammates. It's a cooperative game. You have to coordinate with your teammates in order to solve the mysteries during the day and actually get to the right places at the right time, so that you can get as much done as possible during the day.
Very cool. For me, I would say I sort of have a favorite game and then a game that interests me to an incredibly high degree. My favorite is probably Talisman, just because it's not necessarily an easy game to set up, but it pretty much is. And it's just one of those games that people can talk about real life while they're playing it, but still enjoy a fantasy game. And they can be long, and I'm a big fan. If I'm going to sit down for a board game, I'm usually not a let's play for 30 minutes kind of person. I'm like, okay, if we're sitting down for board games, we're starting at 9, we're ending at like 9 the next morning. We're going to do fucking 24 hours of video or of board games or something like that. And so I like super long ones. But the one that interests me, and I play it all the time and I hate it, but it still causes me to be interested, is Pandemic. Because Pandemic is one of the hardest motherfucking games you are ever going to play. And it's a co-op game where you're trying to fight off 4 diseases that are rampaging through the world. And I am telling you, I have never been able to whittle away a friend list faster than Pandemic. People will just fucking walk away. I mean, I'm not lying. We had a game where we almost won, which is Pandemic in a nutshell, where you think you're going to win and you don't. And I have seen the ecstasy from a person's face where they're so excited go to, I am never, ever playing this game again. Like, I'm never going, and if you bring it out, I'm not coming over for the weekend. it's spectacular and in that way, but it is also at times heart-wrenching. I don't necessarily think you should win every game, but at times when I'm playing Pandemic, it's one of those times where you're just sort of like, a prison movie. You just let it happen. You're like, just let it happen, because you're going to get destroyed at some point. So has anybody else played Pandemic but me? I think Moonraven has played it because he was at least laughing about it.
I know of it.
You know of it.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So I'm the only one who's played that. What about Talisman? Holy shit.
Not familiar with that.
It sounds familiar. I know about it, but...
Oh, okay, gotcha. Next up, Isaac Wright says, how do you feel about Destiny 2's mechanics being borrowed from or inspired by MMOs when it's a 10-hour single-player campaign co-op shooter? When MMOs are built to have hundreds, if not thousands of hours of playability, along with infrastructure to support many players at a time, and mechanics that support this as well. Doesn't seem like MMOs are a great genre to just borrow from willy-nilly, considering how specific they have to be successful. It's a good question. Anybody want to tackle that?
Not especially.
Okay, I'll tackle it.
It's not the first game which does it. It has been done in single-player games in the past.
Right.
And it can work. Some abilities, they do it in Overwatch. They do completely change it to make it fit for it, but...
Dragon Age or Inquisition is definitely
Star Wars
MMO.
Coder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can work. I love Coder, especially too, but... Well...
Yeah, I'll just add my piece unless anybody wants to talk about Destiny 2. Reg, do you have anything? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. On what?
On if Destiny 2, if that's a good idea to borrow from MMOs.
Usually it's not. I mean, it depends on what you're borrowing, but I can't think of many good things about MMOs.
Yeah. At all. So I'll just say this. I think that, first of all, willy-nilly, wrong word, because no developer borrows willy-nilly from anything. There's a lot of process involved. But when it comes down to it, every game borrows from every genre around it. We've seen sports games with single-player components now and huge stories, and some people love that now. WWE allowed you to make your own superstar, and they had behind-the-scenes fucking battles and all, and some people adore that. There's nothing wrong with that. I think, in all honesty, what's happening is we all grow up with certain genres, and when those genres change, it can be a little painful. I mean, it's like when you meet a friend that was your friend in high school or something. You meet them later, and you're like, we have not a lot in common anymore. And it can happen with games. Sometimes a genre just doesn't fit anymore for you, and I don't see a problem with it as long as as long as it makes sense in their game world. And also Destiny, that totally makes sense. The entire game is about a group of people going out and trying to, like, especially trying to save this place from I don't want to spoil or anything, from a major attack. And as a group, you're even grouped with the main characters this time in a couple missions. So I don't see a problem with that.
Usually, if you talk about taking something from MMOs, what I'm thinking about is grinding.
Right,
and
me too.
Quest sets that have no impact at all. Daily missions that you have also to grind to get some gear. Like instances, dungeons, that's stuff from MMOs I'm thinking about, and which I don't much care for at all.
But to be fair, grinding and progression, that's also something that was in JRPGs before.
Skyrim. I mean, you go to the same dungeon 800 times. There's always new bad guys there. So,
and to be fair, this is how genres evolve. People were not expecting something like a first-person RPG game with shooting mechanics like Fallout, and it did eventually happen.
That's true.
So it all depends on personal preference, I guess. Do you like those mechanics? No. It's probably not the game for you.
You guys remember fucking Fallout 3 when Fallout 3 got announced and people lost their shit.
That it was a shooter,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Silver.
Not just that I would have to disagree with you on the point that there were new enemies in Skyrim, because it was basically all the Draugr, like those undead
No,
guys.
I mean new, as in they respawned. You're just going, you're regrinding the dungeon.
That's totally true. Yeah. Totally true. Yeah.
And I wasn't even arguing with Reg. I'm just saying that, like, I think what happens is we get confused because everything's merging.
Yeah, that's also happens every time you rest in Dark Souls.
Yeah, fuckers. Yeah, it's true. I mean, and you know what? Sometimes you gotta, I mean, obviously that was their entire plan for that, is to try to fit, like, okay, we'll have a trade-off. So you can't do what you can do in Skyrim, which is walk behind a fucking boulder and rest for 24 hours to heal and then go fight the guy again because you almost died, right?
Well, or in Witcher, I mean, to be fair.
To be fair,
it's the same.
Yeah. Witcher 3 has a tremendous number of the same mistakes. I get that people like it. You can like it and still say it's got and it has a tremendous number of the same mistakes. So it's got it's certainly not safe from critique. But yeah, I would say maybe Destiny 2 is just not for you, and that's okay. And
of course,
play a different one. What game? Isaac Wright. Man, they got a lot. Holy shit. Okay, here we go. David. Oh, this will be for Reg and I, most likely. David Castellona says, what's your favorite D&D experience? Now, I'm just saying because I know Reg and I've played. So, Moonraven, have you played?
Yes.
Okay, what's your favorite experience? Go.
Oh, I'm actually going to look some things up probably because I currently play a half-orc who's a nobleman and a barbarian.
Of course.
Best combination. And he is not too clever. And I love playing him. I'll be back on this.
Reg?
Well, I think there's two I can think of.
Go for it.
One was one time a friend of ours just basically ran through the dungeon, opened all the doors, attracted all the enemies, and then came back to us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've never heard of that before. Was it his plan? Like,
well, he didn't really care. Yeah, it was kind of his plan. I was blocking his way. I was standing in the doorway and said,
Yeah, no shit. What was your other one?
You're staying in the hallway and getting killed now.
Yeah, exactly. Meat shield.
So that was one of them, and the other one was like we're out. Somebody saved one girl, but got shot by a dart, and we guessed it was poisonous. And the game master was like, "So okay, we're rolling against your stats," and it just said, "Interesting," and everyone was like, "Okay, fucker, you're staying away from me."
Airborne syphilis. You're like, what a shitty day. GB, do you do any role playing? People in that area have
Not
a lot
really.
of D&D games. No, okay.
No.
What about you, Silver?
I do a ton. Yeah.
And what's a really fun moment you remember?
Probably once when I played like an alcoholic dwarf who smoked a pipe. I used to bully the Elven Ranger quite a bit, especially when he was sleeping at camp. Inventive use of bear poop or pheromones. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Silver is the kind of player that just consistently is always chided for causing inner team strife. Moonraven, did you come up with one?
Yeah.
You talked a little bit, but.
His name is Clog, so you've got some small things like it's cloggering time, and I like to do shit
gotcha.
like that. But
it's
he's not the bright one in the party. And we were fighting a Nilbog. You might be familiar with it. It is an extended monster. Basically, if you hit it, it will heal for that damage instead of take that damage. So after a while, I figured it out. I told my party, this is not working. It's healing itself with these hits. We should probably heal it. They didn't do it, didn't listen. So I'm notoriously bad at singing and performing in this game. So I rolled performance, and I rolled a 20. And I asked Nilbog to join me, and he did, because he liked the music. And after a while, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to ask it to join us. So I rolled a 16 plus 4 modifier, and sadly it got its natural 20 minus 1. So it equaled out, but it was a natural 20, which really sucked because I really wanted it. And the DM was like, the Nilbog is contemplating if it's real, if it should go with goblins or our party. Eventually, it came to the conclusion it was alive and vanished. I was like, screw you, I wanted that. It would have been so much fun. It's just, it's basically a joke, a jester, and it would have screwed things up so much.
I think that with D&D, and people just don't realize it, is that anything can happen. Like, you can do pretty much anything. And so when people hear this kind of stuff, a lot of folks are interested, they go into a town in a video game, they press A to buy their potions, and they leave, and they don't really understand that in D&D, as long as your statistics and stuff and everything sort of matches, you can try pretty much anything. For us, I would say one of the best times, Joe, if you're listening, I don't think you listen, but if you're listening, Joe, you fucker, because this ruined our game. But I always DM. I rarely play because that allows me to be all the NPCs, so I was fine with that. But all these guys get chased into a bunch of caverns by some trolls. A fairly standard situation, except that they were fairly low caverns. Well, Joe, I love this guy. He's the type of dude who's just like a mad scientist, and he was a wizard alchemist, whatever, and he had spider crawl as a potion. So he's like, I have an idea. I'm going to drink spider crawl, and I'm going to crawl over the enemies and then attack them from behind. Now, I don't know if he wasn't seeing everybody's face as they all went, but he didn't realize the cavern is only like 5 feet tall. So he crawls and they stab him. They proceed to just stab him to death, and he dies. And Richard, sorry, Richard, I know you don't watch, but one of our friends, Richard, was so mad because he was like, dude, what are you doing? And Joe's just like, fuck, and he crawls, just gets smote. And of course, with one less guy, I think we ended up dying that game. And then when it comes to favorite D&D moments for me is, one time I did play, what was his name? Sashin Sarenlor, something with 2 S's. He was a thief who couldn't steal. He was terrible. And so he lied about it. So he told everybody of all of these amazing jobs he did, and he stole other people's jobs until one of the guys that got in the game was one of the guys he stole the job from. And he also collected shoes. I'm always big into like having characters with stupid little weird nitpicks, weird little things they do. And I think that's what's cool about RPGs, that you can do that now in some RPGs. It's still not as open as I think D&D players would like, but one day we'll be able to do some pretty crazy stuff in video games. I can't wait for those times. Or you can play Divinity Original Sin D&D
I was about
mode.
to say.
That'll
be interesting.
Yeah. Role-playing's great, man. If anybody's a fan of, video games, Mr. Matty on the other podcast, he just now, first time ever, started doing D&D, and to see what his face, he looked different when I talked to him. He's like, oh my God, I get it. Like, I now understand why people absolutely love getting together and playing this. And it's amazing, man. So I implore anybody to go out and do it. Tardog says, in your opinion, what are the pros and cons of a save point system versus being able to save at any time? Silver? Hellblade? Let's talk about save points, baby.
That's certainly aggravated by the fact that it was only one save point that kept overriding itself. But the downside of save points is that you're gonna have to step back and repeat more progress than if you can save at any time. But the upside is that it makes it that much more tense.
Right.
You get more risk averse. So it's sort of a risk and reward situation with save points as opposed to save anywhere.
Yeah. What about you, GB?
Like the first Alien, the original Rebellion, Alien versus Predator from 1999 was so tense precisely because you didn't have any saves in the levels. You had to go through the level from beginning to end, which made it really tense because there were so many aliens in that game.
Thus the alien's name, the plural. What about you, GB? Is there any
I think I prefer being able to save whenever I want because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not the best gamer ever. And there are times whenever you're playing older games and you're in the middle of a mission and you fail, but you have to start all the way back at the beginning of the mission instead of at a quote-unquote checkpoint. So, it's something that's improved in a lot of games now. But if I had to choose between either A, there being an automatic save at this point or that point, or me just saving it whenever the hell I want to, I'd rather just save it whenever I feel like it.
Do you find a con for you with saving anywhere is that sometimes it removes a little bit of the tension because you can try and retry if you wanted to, or does that bother you at all?
No, it's a video game. I'm just having fun.
Yeah, right. What about you, Reg?
Are we talking about like the checkpoint system, or
we can
like
talk about
old school save point system?
We can talk about any of them, pros and cons, because I think all save point styles exist in some game right now, indies or AAAs. I mean, somewhere.
Yeah. Well, but the regular checkpoint systems, I think, are nowadays at least very, very forgiving. They save basically before anything can happen to you.
Saving. Yes. Saving.
So for me, at least, I'd say they actually take the tension out of it because, you're safe anyway. So you can do whatever. Which is also an upside for me because I often forget in the other where you have to manual save to actually save. I'm playing for like 3 hours and haven't saved yet. And having to replay that part is a bitter experience.
Yeah, for sure.
So for me, it's ideally a mixed system. Like automatic save points and manual saving is my preferred system.
Gotcha. What about
Don't you also
Moonraven?
just love when they save immediately prior to a 5-minute cutscene?
Yes.
I like systems that autosave in a death spiral situation, which some do.
Yeah. What about you, Moonraven? What are your pros and cons for those kind of saves?
Like you said before, the Alien vs Predator 2000 by Rebellion, that was really, really annoying. I do remember walking into a building, not being sure if there was an alien, and of course there was. And it was just running around, not doing anything. But I was like, okay, I do not want to play the rest of this, the first part of this level again. This is annoying me. On the other hand, it's really tense. A good checkpoint system actually fixes that a lot because, well, as some of you said, I forget to save. Even with games like City Skylines, I actually installed a mod for it because it didn't autosave. Tropico, I actually had to do the same things again because Rebellion, and I didn't have a save for 30 minutes, so I actually alt F4 the game because that pisses me off. But it does have to be at good moments, so not right in front of a boss battle. That's really taking the tension out of it. Just get a bit before that, probably, because the save icon gives a lot away. But yeah, just having the option to also just save whenever you want, that's really nice. But I'm really happy I don't have to completely start at the beginning of the level or even the beginning of the game like it used to be.
Yeah, that's true.
And wow, that was rough.
For me, what I would like to see on bosses, because he just mentioned something that we've talked about a little bit, but one of the things I hate is when something's happening because the game state changes, and you're like, oh, it's going to be a cutscene because this happened, or you can tell, or you walk into a tunnel and you see an opening, and you're like, Vista moment, we're going to show a giant vista, we're going to pan around it, you're going to be able to see the new, like, those things become so tropish. But what I would like to see is bosses that if you die, instead of starting you further back or whatever, the boss just in the game's fiction moves somewhere else or whatever. Like so there's a little bit of a change up there, just something different. But in a lot of games, what we see now, one game I'm playing right now has like 85 difficulties because it not only has all the different difficulties, but then it's like, do you want Iron Man mode where it saves, but then if you die, it's over? Or do you want this mode where it doesn't save, but if you die, and you've hit save, you can go to that save. Like, there's so many different options now. Pillars of Eternity on complete on the console, choosing difficulty, you have to like read and go, okay, if I mix this difficulty with this, and then you go into the game options and they're like AI high or low, and you're all, well, what the fuck? I just chose like the difficulty over here. Sometimes they separate those, and so it's definitely a weird situation right now. But what I hate is I manual saving. I've fucked up so many times. I've saved while falling off ledges. I've saved while being stabbed. I've saved while fucking the game's crashing. Like, I don't like the manual save all by itself. Like, there has to be manual save and one other, like
backup.
Fallback, yeah. I just wish games did a time save, which I don't know of anyone that does, where you've been playing for 30 minutes, we save. You've been playing, like, there, so it's just connected to time spent in the game world. But
the problem with that is that if you fall off the ledge at the moment it's saving, you're...
I don't mean it's the only save. I don't mean it's the only save. I'm just saying that's how it does its saves progressively. So,
but while talking about that, I thought you were actually talking about how the new SNES Mini Classic is going to do it. That you just can forward and go backwards in the save.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I don't even. It's so odd because those games are particularly geared towards like the quarter muncher style, where if you're dead, you're dead, and instead it's put a bunch of seatbelts in it. I don't know. It's odd, but I don't know anybody here who's really happy with it. Well, wait a minute. Go. Did you ever get a classic or either of the classics? I can't remember. The SNES Classic
isn't out yet.
Or okay, so it was the NES Classic. Did you get that?
No, because they didn't have enough.
They were out, right?
Yeah, eBay grabbed them all. Probably the same thing with the Super Nintendo Classic, unfortunately.
But you'll try, right? I mean,
I'll try, but my effort of trying is going to like a retail store and hope in vain.
I gotcha. What do you think though about the new one changing the save styles of the older games? Are you for that or against that?
If it makes the game more enjoyable for people playing it, yeah, sure, why not? I mean, like the thing about a lot of the older games, like Mario and Zelda, is you only had a certain amount of lives unless you went crazy and were able to get 99 lives. That took a lot of grinding in Mario, but the point is, once you ran out of those lives, it was over. You had no choice but to start over. But most games nowadays aren't like that. You can die a bazillion times at this one point or this other point, and you still get to respawn and with the same character. So things are a lot different now when it comes to the way video games are now as opposed to when they were in the 80s when it comes to things like that.
Yeah, Destiny 2 handles it the same way as, a lot of shooters where like you die and either restricted spawning is on, which means you have to start from a big checkpoint, or just respawning is on. And it's always funny to me that like you'll go into a really tough engagement and you're like, yeah, this isn't working. And you'll just die, and then you can spawn like behind the boulder and come around. And you always wonder, do the enemies go, fuck, that dude just keeps coming back? Like, I mean, I've always wished that like a game like Bard's Tale did this. Bard's Tale liked to poke some of the fourth wall shit, the newest of the Bard's Tales. I would love for a game to be like, listen, motherfucker, we're not stupid. We built up, in the time that you've respawned, we built up some fortifications as well, because this is crazy. Because you're able to do it. You're able to just recycle like some strange karmic wheel and just be like, fuck you, I'm killing you guys. I can tell you there were some battles in all the Destiny games at some random time where you spawned 5, 6, 20 times as you died and came back in, or the revive. I love in like Destiny, it's like revive. It's not just make you come back to fight. It's like you're instantly a brand new kid. You're just like, ta-da, and you're fine, and you're all, no wonder the bad guys can't get a break. We're just kicking their ass. It's like, of all you do, I just stood behind some dudes, let them die, and just heal them back. Wait, let them die, heal them back. Yeah, it was very
you guys play
odd way.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Did you guys play Dead Space 2?
I did.
Because that game gave me like the most tense experience I've ever had with a game, because I beat that game on the hardest difficulty. And the hardest difficulty gives you 2 saves that you can use for the entire game, and it's like 10 hours, the game. And I had one save like 5 hours in, and so I was like 3 or 4 hours of progress when I got to the part with the needle that pokes your eye.
Uh-huh.
So that was super tense because you miss that and you die. And that needle is like shaking all over the place, and that was super tense. Like that was really unnerving, and that was enhanced by the fact that I had 4 hours of progress riding on that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's cool because we're all different. I'm sure other people will be like, I want to be able to save everywhere and have it save 50 times a minute. It's like everybody likes different stuff, and like Go was saying, if it makes it easier for this group, that's fine with me. That's the way I feel, is let me choose.
Yeah.
More options, man. Let me go in, look at Operation Flashpoint or Arma, where you can adjust how far the enemy can see, because it's a computer, it knows where the fuck you are. So already. So you're just really telling it to be dumber, but I like more options and all these options for difficulty.
Options are always good. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and somebody got mad because there was a story mode in, was it Andromeda? That had story difficulty. There was a game recently that had like a story difficulty, and people were really not happy about it. And I was like, whatever. That person wants to play and engage in a story.
Yeah.
Like
Horizon Zero Dawn did that. They patched it in later.
Yeah, that might be the one I'm talking about. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They did patch in a, like, was it adventure or story difficulty? I think it was story. I think that's what it's called, was story difficulty. So hey, whatever. I mean, it look at an action movie. It's only got 2 or 3 times where the fucking main lead is in any danger anyway. So it's like, if somebody wants to play a video game that way, where there's only maybe 3 or 4 really hard parts and the rest is just fun shit exploding, let them.
Yeah,
like there's nothing wrong with that.
Or if they just want to feel powerful or whatever.
Exactly. I mean, it is a game. It's like, you don't feel powerful in real life. If your house is flooded and you're at a hotel and you're like, I want to play a game, then maybe you don't want to play Dark Souls, where it also just, where it's like, well, this was a bad idea for what game I should play. I've always felt that, like, the more options, the better for gamers. That's the it. Oh, go ahead.
And that's actually the reason why cheats and trainers still are really popular, just to give that sense of power. Just go for it. And if you can do it on a console, great. Yeah.
I've never had a problem with cheats or trainers. I know some people use what's the one? Silver and I, Cheat Engine, isn't that the one we've talked about in the past?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really do like the idea of just letting people have have whatever choice they want. Fuck.
Absolutely.
It's not an Iron Man contest. It's not a triathlon. You're not truly being physically fucking challenged. So
yeah. And just because someone else has it easier than you, it doesn't invalidate your experience. So I don't really see why people have issues with it.
No, and you want to blow somebody's mind. Whenever anybody says that, like, they don't like those because people should get good or whatever, I mean, if you really think about, like, not allowing somebody to have those abilities just because you think you're better, the fact is that, like we said before, everybody's bad at least one thing out there, and they'll get into it and they'll be the first ones to complain. They'll be the first ones being like, "This is unfair." Blah, blah, blah. Like, listen, bitch, you were the one on forums talking about Dark Souls. And every game should be like Dark Souls. Well, you just got Dark Souled in your basketball game or whatever. Because I've seen that too, like sports games. A lot of people will jump into a sports game and be like, what the fuck? And I'll be like, do you realize how many games are won in the last second? Tons. So you just got smoked in the last second. Deal with it. Which is like Pandemic as a board game. Fuck. Maybe I shouldn't hate Pandemic so much.
I loved it.
It's hard to describe, dude. It's so hard to describe until you play it. Does anybody have anything to add to this podcast before we close it up? We're at an hour and 50 minutes. Did pretty well. Anybody have anything engaging? No. Any new tidbit? Titillating tidbit?
Only thing is that Nintendo is currently saying, apparently, that they might not even have enough Switch units by Christmas to satisfy everyone. So talking about Nintendo and supply.
Hey, maybe I can swap Xbox One X for my Switch.
No shit. Yeah, is GameStop doing that kind of stuff?
Let's make a deal.
Yeah, let's make a deal. Man, I don't know. I don't even know what to think about Nintendo anymore. Every time they ever come up, I'm always confused on whatever they're talking.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not lying. It's like every time we talk about their news, I'm just like,
I get
all
it.
right. I don't. I'm so confused on everything they do right now. So
yeah,
it seems to be working for them. I mean, they're
yeah.
Or at least
I have a Switch and I'm annoyed by some things. It's
yeah.
Oh, I think everybody. I mean, there's.
I mean, what was today Discord? I don't really recall who it was, but like, oh yeah, I put like 15 pounds of weight on my bench Switch and now it's straight again.
What was that?
Yeah, that
I think
that's something you don't want to hear about any electronics device ever.
I think he was bending. If I understand right, he was retouching connections by putting weight on it because it wasn't working.
not connections. It's the known problem of the Switch getting bent out of shape by the heat distortion.
So he just put like 15 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah,
but like it's like remember the Xbox 360? This worked, by the way. If you wrapped it in a towel and put it in your oven, it would re-soften the solder points that, because they were lead free, were failing and causing red rings of death. And I have friends who are playing red ringed Xboxes that work fine now because they ovened them. But at the same time, get a towel, wrap it around the 360, turn it on for like 2 hours, or put your 360 in an oven. Like, who the fuck is the first person? Chicken and egg, ignore that. I want to know who the first motherfucker is who grabbed a 360 and said, let's put that on the chicken frying pan and just see what happens. And it worked.
It's broken anyway, so you can try.
But it's your oven. What if it melted? It'd be fucking nasty. Like, you can't tell me your rotisserie fucking Thanksgiving turkey tasted the same after you recooked 360s inside of it. You're like, it tastes a little bit like fucking saran wrap or something. I don't know. It's just so many odd ways.
I found the sentence again. My Switch was bent and I fixed it with a 15-pound weight and a Sega Dreamcast.
Yeah, and somebody said something like, I think that was Reg who said that's something you never want to hear when it comes to hardware. Yeah. Speaking of Discord, if you get a chance and you're a patron, stop on by. We're having it's been an absolute blast. We've got a ton of stuff going on in those. So people are asking why channels get deleted. They just do. One of the things that I guess people didn't understand is that we have the general. We've got a couple, but the general is really the main one. And especially with Nightbot running, Nightbot is a bot that checks for things. Obviously, somebody said something in that in one of the chats, and it deleted the chat. I've turned that ability off for Nightbot, but we've had some people come in who are new patrons who stretch the line of public consumption, I guess, who are a little less PR than the rest of us, and sometimes they say something, and Discord does have filters. It will ban people. It will turn off channels. So yeah, that happens for sure. Nothing except for general and play games with Karak are probably like long term, unless something happens. Also, you'll get like 10 people in one of the threads. I deleted one that had like 10 responses, and nobody had responded in over a month. And people were like, where'd that thread go? Just like, Jesus Christ. It's like somebody mows your lawn because you haven't mowed it and you get pissed. You're like, what the fuck are you mowing my lawn for? Like, because, dudes, people were camping in it. There were like, there was baboons in your front yard. There were snakes and baboons. Yeah, dogs were going, exactly. We're not quite sure, but I think I saw a lion's mane in there. Go ahead.
Which does remind me, just in case anyone else likes it, new season of BoJack Horseman is out today on Netflix.
Very cool. Netflix,
because
which is
that has such a scene in it in the
and
season.
Is getting rid of Marvel and getting rid of Netflix is getting rid of Marvel and Star Wars so that Disney can stream it.
Well, yeah.
That's what we need, another streaming service to pay for.
Jesus Christ, dude. Is it so true or what? There's so fucking many.
I'll set it up for you.
There's so many. That's it for us, I think, unless anybody has anything else to add. I will get this posted by, let's see, Yeah, today.
One day.
I don't have anything big coming.
I do have one more thing I saw. Dragon's Dogma is coming to PS4.
Well, wait a minute. Dragon's Dogma.
Dark Arisen.
Yeah, was it not?
Release next month.
It should be coming to Xbox One, PS4, the remaster.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. You're just
that was just a heads up that it's coming next month to the current consoles.
And you want to get it, people, because they're Masterworks all. You can't go wrong. I absolutely, if you have a problem with repeating audio, you're gonna have a problem with that First Village. But
not only
game.
that, but also harpies.
What is
you go through that mountain pass.
Wolves hate fire. Wolves hate fire. Some people turn the pawns off. I fucking love them because there's a lot of games that feel lonely, right? Like you're adventuring, you're like, I'm by myself, blah, blah, blah. I loved having them. I mean, they might have been mentally deficient pawns, like cousins that might have had sex and their child showed up, but it didn't matter because they were hilarious. Like, I mean, some of the things they said and how they learned knowledge about other creatures. I thought that was a really engaging system.
Oh, or the areas by sending them off and having other players run around with them.
I still remember one of my friends, and they played like you did, and one of my friends was like, dude, do not get Karak's character because all he does is run around and smash boxes. And Jimmy goes, dude, here's a video. And it was my character wasn't fighting enemies. He was running around just smashing boxes. And he's like, is he retarded? Like, or, like what is happening with this character? Like, it's just me. So yeah. Mentally deficient for sure. Thanks everybody for watching. I definitely appreciate it. Thanks for Moonraven for showing up on somewhat short notice. I definitely appreciate it. Next time we'll give you a little bit more time to come up with some things that you want to talk about. I apologize. It was very short notice. I think I emailed everybody like last night at like 9 or 10. So I definitely appreciate you jumping in. Yeah, it was a blast. Everybody else, peace out. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Take care.